I feel like the committee already showed us what they value.
They do. They did. Yeah, 100%.
Cincinnati coming in undefeated. The AP poll, coaches poll, they've been riding. They've been sitting up there. They got a nice bump from Notre Dame. The committee gets together. Oh, that's great, Cincinnati. You guys keep up the good work. 7. So really, Oklahoma, who's really kind of backed their way into some wins, stole some wins, lucked up on a couple. I don't even know what you call the thing at Kansas that took your freshman quarterback pulling the ball from a tailback in midfield on a 4th down call to get 3 yards out of his belly. Well, I don't know what you call that, except that they play in the Power 5 and they have a legacy and a tradition in the playoffs versus this Cincinnati team that hasn't lost in 2 years. This is going to be a heck of a run. Let's just go into it. So initially, the initial college football rankings. Dagan, can you give us the playoff rankings? The initial top 4 rankings. So the White.
We can start. Well, we can start here, right?
Okay, we'll start here.
Because BYU is going to be tough, and this is George. You want to talk about who actually has a chance left, or do you just on the initial thought of what these rankings are?
I want to talk about this is the initial rankings.
So out of this group, let's just say A&M and Oklahoma State are alive, right? Out of these guys, those are the 2 teams alive.
And A&M's got a hell of a win, right? I mean, you did beat the Roman Army or whatever that we like to call them.
And they beat Auburn today, which is a top 15 matchup, right?
100%. And you still have, you're at Ole Miss next week, right? And then like what we talk about, Prairie View, and then at LSU, who showed up to be a pretty decent team. So I think they do have a chance if there's some slippage up north here that they could. They're not going to make a run to the west, though. That's the thing. They're not going to jump at 2 losses with Mississippi State and Arkansas. They're not going to jump Alabama.
Right.
So is it a 1-loss A&M, right?
It's 2-loss.
Mississippi State and Arkansas.
That Mississippi State deal hurt.
Yeah,
all right,
it's Sugar Bowl.
So, okay, here is where your wedding crashers live, right here.
Mm-hmm.
So Cincinnati, I mean, they can't just kill people; they have to decapitate them. Michigan has to run the table. Oklahoma
wakes up out of there.
Oklahoma has some real traps in front of them. I mean, I hate to even call them traps. At Baylor, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, all 3 have the firepower. No tricks, no onside kicks. They can all take out Oklahoma. Like, they're just going to watch the Kansas tape. Wake Forest, it was fun. You should take a picture of this. You guys got up to number 9. That's great for you. And Notre Dame, I mean, what do we do with Notre Dame?
No. Just keep going. Canada. Canada.
So
Bryce wants to ship them up. Exports.
Again, it's a good stat in recruiting because Notre Dame can say, once again, we were top 10 in college football. So really, we're talking about 6, 7, 8. Are we still talking about 7?
You still talking about Michigan?
I mean, you still have Ohio State left to play as Michigan, so 100%.
Penn
State.
Talking. They got Penn State.
Penn State.
And Penn State, yes, but in terms of the group to knock off, the unit to knock off is Ohio State. That gets you into the Big Ten championship. You do that, you're in. So I think we're 100% still talking about Michigan.
So let's just play this right here. Trevor, Bryce, Hack. Michigan runs out from here. They beat the 2 teams we just talked about, Penn State, Ohio State. They knock out whoever the West farts out from their side of the deal. Or Oklahoma gets past. They win the next 3 games by 7 because that's basically what they've been doing. I don't even know if the Big 12 has a conference championship. I assume they do. They win that. If there's room for one between these 2 programs, where does it go? A Big 10 champ with 1 loss in Michigan, or a Big 12 champ in Oklahoma that's really played C+ football all year, undefeated.
I don't even think it's a question. I know that's tough being a Big 12 guy, but I don't even think it's a question. I don't know what you want to say, Trevor, but
the only thing is,
wait, it's not a question. Meaning it goes to who, Bryce?
It goes to Big 10.
Yeah.
Bigger wins.
Yeah. I mean, the way that
you survived that conference, dude.
That's what I'm saying. But the way too, if you're looking at, you've had pretty much 3 teams all year long in the Big 12 that have been ranked. Baylor came up. Oklahoma State came up as well. It was really just Oklahoma and Iowa State, and that's what we were talking about. Pregame or preseason show was Oklahoma or Iowa State. That's going to be the battle at the very end to determine the Big 12 championship, and then Oklahoma State and Baylor rose up there. The way that Oklahoma, in terms of what you just mentioned, in terms of what a style points, how do you barely beat, into the fourth quarter a Tulane team? How do you barely beat into the fourth quarter a Nebraska team? How do you barely beat a Kansas team that people are shellacking at Lawrence, at home? I mean, you just, when you look at in totality, the season that in terms of production that Lincoln Riley and the Oklahoma Sooners have put on the field, you cannot even begin to think that OU belongs in there outside of what Michigan has to go through at the back end of this season, or Michigan State, or an Ohio State, since we're talking about those 3. That's my opinion. Go ahead, Trevor, since your pretty smile is going.
The thing is, I don't disagree with you.
Yes.
But I do, because
that's a
quote. It's kind of similar to his toast. It's similar to his toast.
It's similar. Yeah.
Toast.
But listen, I've never heard that quote in my life.
You said
I don't disagree with you, but I do. That's a toast.
Listen.
Hey, Oklahoma. Hold on real quick, Trevor. I know that you're a good arguer with your wife, because that's exactly probably what you say to Lacey. I don't disagree with you, but I do.
I do.
I have my ways.
Go ahead.
You just leave her confused.
Guys,
as shit.
Oklahoma has been to the college football playoff multiple times now. This will be, and I'm saying will because I believe it's going to happen, the first time they go to it undefeated. They had Baker. They had Kyler. They never got in as an undefeated team. They always had one loss. Now you're telling me for the first time they run through the conference undefeated and they're going to get turned down? It's not going to happen. It's an undefeated Power 5 conference champion.
But look at
we're
talking about Big 12. We're talking about Big 12 versus Big 10 here. Correct. Assuming that Oregon gets in, because the committee, again, has already shown us what they want. So you're telling me, let me ask you this then. How many times has Oklahoma been national championship? And how many times has Ohio State been the national championship? They are going to pull the Big Ten.
I get it. All I'm saying is that goose egg has, in the L column, has to carry some sort of weight.
It doesn't.
How do you put in a Baker and Kyler team and you don't put in this team?
Because I'd love to see what they were doing in November, 1, and then 2, it is about that momentum going into the playoffs.
All right. So then the argument isn't going to be Big 10 versus Big 12. That's not going to be the argument, because I think then if Oklahoma's undefeated and a 1-loss Big 10 champion, both of them are in, plus Georgia, and then you've got one other spot.
You're saying that one of them is going to hop, or both of them are going to hop Oregon that's already in right now?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
I think the committee's already shown you that they like Oregon better than they like.
All right,
Oklahoma.
so everybody here besides me agrees that if Oklahoma goes undefeated and wins the Big 12, they still don't get in.
Yeah.
Pending if everybody else.
I'll put my Bet Rivers money on that right now.
So be it.
I didn't say that.
So,
I think the wild card is Alabama. Do they take a 2-loss Alabama if Alabama goes and gets beat by Georgia? Do they take a 2-loss Alabama or not? I think that is ultimately the thing that needs to get decided, and we're not going to find that out for another 4 weeks.
Well, let's answer that question. Let's answer that right now. Texas A&M, do we really look at Oklahoma's schedule and think that Texas A&M couldn't run the table against Tulane? I don't even know who WCU is. Nebraska, West Virginia, Kansas State, Texas, who's just, they're in the spa. TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Texas A&M, who went toe-to-toe with Bama and led for 3 of the 4 quarters and beat them. They couldn't go through Oklahoma's schedule and get them?
I think they could.
Okay, so now answer that question. So you answer that question.
I get what you're trying to do here,
but
George.
that's Bama's first loss. Bama loses again, it'll be to the White Walkers. That's 2 losses. So if the committee looks at their 2 losses and says, okay, put their losses against Oklahoma's schedule. Let's just walk through Oklahoma's schedule. Technically, all win. Not technically. Let's just do the respect. They are undefeated. 5 points. 5-point differential against Tulane at home. They beat WCU 76-0. What's WCU stand for, Trevor?
No clue. Don't care.
Worcester sauce, whatever. 76. So they beat Nebraska. They beat Nebraska by 7. They beat West Virginia by 3. Kansas State by 6. They had to come down from a mile to beat Texas, but they still beat them by 7. They got TCU by 21. They got loose. Big scare at Kansas because they're down in the 4th quarter. And then they finally tagged out Texas Tech. Look at all those 12th round split decision nail biting deals
in the L column.
You say it again?
Egg in the L column.
That's
the committee's saying the same thing. Please, Oklahoma
that's
slip
true,
up
but
in the
I'm
next
saying
3 weeks.
out of the Roman army, and we're already assigning a loss to them to Georgia, just in case. If they lose to Georgia, the 2 teams that beat them would knock out everybody in Oklahoma's schedule, probably also knock out Oklahoma. But I might be wrong. Hack, Bryce, I don't want to beat up his Sooners, but that's the facts. They lost to the number 14 team, and they may lose to the White Walkers. If they lose to the White Walkers, they probably still have a better claim, except for the column that says 2, but that's not your average 2.
I'm just scared. I'm just scared that what you just said is going to play out, and Notre Dame is going to get in the playoff.
Oh, man.
That's what I'm so scared. I'm so scared that Alabama's going to get beat, and that they already like Oregon, and Notre Dame is going to get in there. I would much.
I don't think Notre Dame though gets in over the
That's
Big Ten
true.
champ.
That's or Cincinnati to Georgia's point, because they lost to them heads up. So
Correct. So I don't think we have to worry about the Golden Domers.
Trevor, what does Oklahoma have to do to keep themselves out of, like, ironically, they're one of 3 or 4 programs vying the 4th chair. What do they have to do to imprint themselves on the 4th chair?
They have to win out.
just keep
Simple.
winning.
No,
Just
but
keep
no,
winning.
it's
They need
not
help though.
enough.
No, they
Hack.
They
simply
need
have to
help.
win out. They will be one of 2 Power 5 undefeated conference champions. One
They
of
need
2.
help.
And the
And
other one,
I think they're going to have 3.
Georgia.
To Trevor's point, they also, because I would assume that Ohio State gets ranked after this. Maybe not, but they're going to have 3 ranked teams coming down the stretch to solidify. I'm just saying, as it stands right now, they have done and proven nothing. If they go put up 45 against Baylor, 38 against Iowa State, and then go into the Bedlam game and put up,
Oklahoma
whatever.
State's
17.
undefeated. They finished their regular season out with a top 10 win.
Honestly, we're having the same conversation with Oklahoma State, but quickly, Hack, if Oklahoma, and I already ran down their wins, they beat Mustard State by 8. They beat Barbecue Tech by 9.
Right.
If they win these last 3 games, granted, Oklahoma State's respectable. We're going to have the same conversation. We could be talking about them. They're undefeated.
No, they have a loss.
Yeah, they lost.
Oh, tonight. You're right. If they beat these 3 opponents, though, Hack, and it's all single digits, and it looks like the game could have gone either way for 90% of the game until they found a way to get it done or it was given to them. Is undefeated, is that a universal term, or or are there different sides of an undefeated prism and Oklahoma could be on the wrong side of?
So here's my thing, because this is what I was getting into earlier when we were talking before we went live. I think there's arguments for the Big Ten and the SEC to have 2 teams represented based upon the strength of schedule and how well these teams have played. I think this is unlike the previous years, Trevor, that you were talking about with Oklahoma getting in, and it would be the first time that they would get in undefeated. I think the landscape of college football has proven to be stronger in certain areas than others, whereas I think it was more evenly distributed during these previous times that you were speaking of. I don't want to take away from the power of consistency that Oklahoma has had in terms of being there, being at the door, but they have gotten their teeth kicked in every time they got to the show. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not like a team like Ohio State, who has, I think, outside of the SEC, been the only other team to win it in the last 8 years, 9 years, Clemson. 10 years. Clemson. So Clemson and Ohio State, outside of the SEC, have been the only two teams to win it. I just feel that I think there's a lot of strength in the SEC and specifically the Big Ten East. I think the ACC doesn't have a player in Clemson anymore, which hurts. So when you don't have that, then by default, the entire ACC is down. So they're playing for the freaking Georgia Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I just think that it's a unique year. I think there's strength in certain areas that there hasn't been so much strength before. And I think even in undefeated Oklahoma, because of the way that they've played, which everyone has touched on, and we don't need to continue to beat that dead horse, I think this is a year where if style points matter, if strength of schedule matters, top to bottom, all these variables that we don't really know what the weight they carry play into it. I think if there is a year that they can get hosed, this is the year, because I think there are better football teams out there. That's my only thing. And like I said, it just bodes 1,000 times more into the argument of what I was saying, is that we need to expand this freaking thing, because it's what it eliminates these arguments and we get to see it on the field.
I totally agree with you guys wholeheartedly in style points, better teams, all that kind of stuff, and what we think the rubric is for picking the top four.
Yep.
That being said, you go out on the field every week and you get one of two things. You get a W or you get an L. And that is still the most important thing across the board. If this was years past and Oklahoma's a one-loss team, obviously they don't sniff the playoff. We're not talking about them. They're outside the top 10, right? This year, they are lucky because of strength of schedule and because of the lack of style points and having a Heisman Trophy winner, that they could still get in only because of the goose egg in the L column. That's the only reason.
And real quick,
to that point, though, people in Cincinnati are saying the same thing.
Not Power 5.
It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter, because what the committee showed us by putting Oregon ahead of Oklahoma is your goose egg means nothing.
Correct.
Oregon has a one loss to Stanford. And they still jumped them. Now, that could be because of the heads up at Columbus. They beat Ohio State. But
and Oklahoma's back heavy schedule that they're about to go play some juggernauts.
But how heavy is that back heavy schedule, though?
Correct.
It's not as heavy as a back heavy Big Ten schedule.
It's good football, but it's not. There's no.
But again, to Trevor's point, though, I don't think that, because I think now we're.
But they're not playing Notre Dame.
I think what we're talking about is does Oklahoma, or can Oklahoma jump Oregon, or is the committee going to say, hey, Alabama, you lost A&M, you lost in the conference championship, you're out.
So are we all saying here that Oklahoma has, even at undefeated, if they go and beat Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, that there's 0% chance that they get in, or it's dependent on the Big Ten
It's
champion?
dependent. I don't think it's a lock. I think if Oklahoma goes undefeated, you're still making a case. You're not a lock.
That's what they have to do, though. If they lose a game, they're done.
Oh, it's not even close. Agreed there. Completely agree there.
they control their own destiny, but it goes back to the initial argument is they control their own destiny, but they don't have enough weight. They don't have enough ass in the back end of the schedule to strengthen their argument. The only way they strengthen their argument is by winning out. These other teams have opportunities to strengthen their argument, even though they may have a blemish in that wins and loss column, like what you were talking about, in my opinion.
Well,
if
we'll
we're
see.
being honest, the Kansas should be seen as a loss already. None of these programs, Cincinnati included, would be messing around with Kansas, scrapping around on the floor of a bar, trying to get air with Kansas in the fourth quarter. None of these programs would.